Buddy, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Nancy. I really appreciate the chance to be on here.
Was there a specific moment that sparked this career pivot into storytelling?
I've always been interested in writing, and I had on my bucket list publishing a novel and have had it on there for a long, long time.
8 years. That's how long you lived with these characters while writing the book. What's it like having Paul and Catherine Nelms and all these other people essentially living in your head for nearly a decade?
Oh, you love them. And you sit there and every now and then you kind of remind yourself they're just made up and it's a little bit sad,
Yeah.
but it's funny. When I was writing the book, what would happen would be the story would be going along, and all of a sudden, Paul would do something stupid in my head. And I'd think, Paul, you knew better than to do that. But then I'd write it into the book and I'd go, how are you going to get yourself out of this? And I wouldn't know. But after a while, the story sort of wrote itself. And I like to think in my head in a crazy way. In some ways, these characters were writing their own story as we were going through it. But I love the characters, all but one. There's one character I really don't love, don't like, but all the other ones I like. And so that's been fun. And
Give us a little overview.
Paul Nelms is a 55-year-old writer, and he's married to a woman named Catherine. And she comes home one night shattered, absolutely devastated. And something has happened to her, and she gives Paul some of the facts, but not all of the facts. But what is very clear to him is that she has been assaulted and she doesn't want to go to the police. And so he does what I would do, or what many other husbands would do, which is you sit there and you think about, what should I do? Should I take the matter into my own hands? And he starts to do that, and it backfires. And then he tries to extricate himself from this situation that arises when he tries to take the matter in his own hands. And the longer he tries to extricate himself, the more he realizes he can't. And the stakes continue to rise to the point that at the end of the book, he really has to make a decision. Do I do the right thing, or do I risk everything that I have come to love? And he doesn't make that decision until the very end of the book. And there's also a component of this book that's a who done it? Did
Right.
he do it or did he do it? This
Okay.
is twisty. This is twisty.
Well, now you've spent your career in financial analysis and mergers and acquisitions. So, what made you decide to write a legal thriller? Was this genre always calling to you?
The original idea for this novel happened in 1977 when I was in college. And I had an event happen to me that I can't really go into. It would be a spoiler. But I disclose that at the very end of the book. And I say, this was the genesis of the whole idea. And so I'm 67 now. So this occurred when I was roughly 20. So I've been kind of nursing this thing in the back of my head along in some ways for about 47 years.
Wow.
And I have always just thought in the back of my head, someday I need to write this book. And I would say this for anybody, if there's any listener out there that's ever thought about writing, it is never too late. It is never too late. And it's important to understand that it doesn't mean that you've got to write a book. It
Right.
just means you need to tell that story, and particularly to young people who may not know it.
Other writers are curious. What is your process?
You mentioned earlier, I'm a financial guy. So
Yes.
I talk in terms of compound interest and things like that that would bore people to death. But what's true about compound interest is the idea is that it's consistency that ends up paying off in the long run. So there are people who sit down for 12 hours and they write and then they don't write for another 2 months. For me, my process is if I can sit down and just say 30 minutes, write 200 words, 300 words, whatever it is, and usually I'll set a certain amount and say, you've got to make this much progress. I can make a lot of progress in that sort of a structure.
And do you write morning or evening?
Morning, absolutely, morning.
Silence or with background music?
Silence, but after coffee.
It must be after coffee.
Must be after
Yeah.
coffee.
What's the best way for readers to connect with you?
Buddyhoward.com. I've got a website, and that's probably the easiest thing. There's a place where you can email me a message. I would love to hear from people. The most fun about writing a novel for me has been the interactions with people. Talking about Paul, Catherine, Rebecca, Levi, all these people, talking about what they didn't expect, what they would have expected. To me, that has been just so much fun. So I would love to hear from anybody who is nice enough to leave me a note or write and say something. Thank you if you do that. I would love to hear from you.
Buddy Howard, congratulations on your debut novel. Thank you so much for this. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you, Nancy. This was great. Thank you so much for taking the time.
The Burden of Evidence by Buddy Howard is available now.